Well, we have literally just walked out of Fate of the Furious.
And against all odds,
It was pretty
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
So before we properly start talking about this movie, there's something about Fast and Furious that you need to understand. It comes down to the audience because these movies are just doing their thing. There's three types of people that watch these movies. There's the first type of people who understand that these movies are just being themselves. They're super over the top. They are completely in control of their action. They're of a really high quality, and regardless of how stupid the kind of dialogue is and the situation is, they're just doing their thing, and you got to respect that. The second group of people watch these movies and go, well, this is just ridiculous, and the dialogue is terrible, and the characters are stupid, and these movies are just shit. And then there's the third type of people who don't really know what quality is and just going because they want to see loud cars and hot women, and that's it.
Hot babes and hot wheels.
Now, we both used to be in that second group of people who used to just dismiss these movies as
Which one?
shit.
Was that the Hot Babes and Hot Wheels?
We were in that second group of people, and I don't know how many of you guys were around when we did our review of Furious 7 back then, but we really, really hated that movie. And we knew that these movies were better than we thought, and we've kind of gone back and reassessed. And by the time we get to Fate of the Furious, we had such a good time with this movie. Such a good time.
I'm like a revving engine. But yes, an absolutely fantastic time. Now, Fate of the Furious takes place after Furious 7, and essentially Dominic Toretto's character goes rogue, as The Rock says, and he goes rogue with Charlize Theron's character, and essentially it's revealed information to him, and he goes against the family, which is everyone else kind of in that group. And then it just kind of goes from there, and it's about what's happening between these two people.
We won't get into whether it's brainwashing or not, because people at this stage are obviously unaware. They're like, oh, has it been brainwashed? What leverage does she have on him? We won't get into that for now. But we will say the whole team does come together in a really interesting way to solve a bunch of really, really interesting problems considering the franchise. Now, this is the most over-the-top film they've done. This is by far the most out of control, insane, borderline illogical. I mean, there's some scenes we like, I don't know why this is happening or how we got here, but the action, and I think that the heart of this film is so strong that it kind of overrides all of that. And we want to say, we think it's thanks in this film, the fact that it holds together is all thanks to one person.
Charlize Theron. My goodness.
Between Mad Max and obviously she has Atomic Blonde coming out later this year, she's proving herself to be one of the greatest action kind of actors at the moment. In this film, she practically has no action scenes. She is like a Bond villain.
Well, obviously she's got dramatic chops, and like she won the Oscar for Monster, and here she plays a really dramatic role, and it just helps ground the film in some reality, I suppose, the whole time, and gives, I don't know, we get a really, really strong villain.
One of the best villains I've seen in a blockbuster for a long time.
That's quite terrifying. I mean, yeah, she's like terrifying Vin Diesel in scenes, and that's pretty damn good. And that's the one thing I will move on to next, is because acting across the board here is actually really, really good. And we usually don't like Vin Diesel at all, but I've kind of figured out why a lot of people do like him and why he can be very good at times. And essentially, it's because of his reactions. When he's reacting to an action or a new piece of information, he gets it spot on, and he really can act quite well. But when it comes to thinking on screen and his thought process or delivering a few really cringy lines,
the gears don't really turn.
Yeah, and he struggles. But the thing is, his reactions in this film are fantastic.
And when stuff he has to go through.
When Charlize Theron is throwing it down and threatening him, you can see Vin Diesel using some emotional capabilities, relating it to his own life, and it really shows on screen, and it's great.
The other highlights of this movie are, of course, The Rock as Hobbs again, and his chemistry with Jason Statham, which is a partnership we are so lucky to be able to see, and it is constantly not only hilarious, but it's just really... it's badass.
Yeah, and it really gives birth to one of the greatest scenes in this entire franchise.
The prison riot fight scene is just, without saying anything about it, is one of the best action scenes we have ever seen. And this movie has some of the best action scenes we've ever seen, including the opening car chase in Cuba was just phenomenal.
This is the type of scene that essentially, when you type in on YouTube, Fate of the Furious scene, this is going to be one of the top searches.
You might never go and watch the movie again. But the prison riot fight scene is so well done and so entertaining, and every kind of punch and everything has weight, and it's It's just really, really cool.
High velocity entertainment. And essentially that's where F. Gary Gray, the director here, who most recently did Straight Outta Compton, really shines, is when he has kind of time, I suppose, to plan out these big sequences. And both the prison riot scene and the opening scene you just touched on as well, with Vin Diesel essentially in a car race,
it's like
is
a street race,
incredible. I was taken back to like Mad Max Fury Road in regards
it's got
to like...
owes a lot to that movie, I think.
Yeah, the planning and like fast forwarding through scenes and then cutting around and getting really good coverage and making the whole car chase so clear.
Having a really good flow. I think that's the other really impressive thing is with the amount that's going on in this film, and if you've seen the trailers, you'll see how intense some of the action scenes are. They are always clear. You can always see who you're following, and you really get kind of invested in everyone. It's even if it's just for the case of saying, I want to see what happens next. How can they one-up themselves? And they continue doing that across the whole movie. Every time you think you've seen an action scene, you're like, they can't outdo that. They manage to outdo it, whether it be in scale or intensity. As we've said, we do have our favorite scenes, which are earlier on in the movie, but that's not to say that the scenes throughout this aren't all really well done.
However, I will say the trailer definitely did spoil a fair bit. So, a lot of the film, which is quite unfortunate. So if you haven't seen it yet and you're watching this review, don't go rewatch the trailer, kind of leave that away, push it to the side.
Now, the film isn't without its faults, and as I touched on right at the start, there is a couple of situations in this movie where it's like, that is such a sketchy way to get that to happen so that that can happen, and it just kind of stretches a little bit too far. There's also, the cinematography kind of just has to get the job done because it's, when you're shooting that much content, you can't be overly stylized. But the editing between some of the stuff, not in the big action scenes, but in the personal stuff, the person-to-person stuff. It's like, why have your hands moved between scenes? And you shouldn't be getting it wrong in those types of scenes.
But I suppose, like, on the opposite end of that is, like, the choices that F. Gary Gray and the cinematographer made here when it comes to, like, slow motion and, like, capturing these big scenes and deciding in post-production, what would be... CGI and then obviously practical as well. It was a great mix all around.
There's some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen done with a camera in this. Like, it's not often we watch a movie and go, I can't work out how that was done.
And I gotta admit, I feel they definitely destroyed some cameras here.
Yes, there was definitely some broken cameras in the process in this movie. Now, the major letdown with this movie was the visual effects at times.
Yeah.
I think because the practical stuff is so strong and like some of the car stunts are just unreasonable. Like this stunt crew is amazing. Just phenomenal. The visual effects in a lot of scenes, you're like, I cannot believe they let that through. That just looks unfinished. It looks incomplete.
There is just like shots near the end of the film where you're kind of like, oh, is this actually happening right now? Because like you actually can't see what's going on, especially during the snow. There's like the submarine shot. And
it's not so much that you can't see. You can follow the action. You can follow where it's going. But there's certain times where it's just like, that's just snow coming out of the ground, or it's just an engine or whatnot. And the final thing worth mentioning with this movie is that the main reason I've kind of hated the Fast and Furious franchise for so long was because of Tyrese Gibson. I find him so fucking annoying. And in this movie, the script just worked for him. Everything he kind of said just really worked.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of a testament to how good this movie is overall, that has so much respect for its heritage, for its previous entries, previous characters, that it kind of just feels like a movie with a lot of love put into it. And I think regardless of, if you can't get past that stage of going, I fucking hate these movies, you have to at least respect just how much work has gone into it.
Yeah, and just how much passion behind the camera and in front of the camera really goes into big ass projects like this.
Yeah.
We love our indies, but these things are shot in like 20, 30, 40 days sometimes, where you've got big films like this. They're shot months at a time.
Of hard work. So the credits rolled for so long. There was so much hard work that went into this.
We just got to appreciate that.
And so Fate of the Furious is just one of the best action movies we have seen in recent memory. It's not without its heavy flaws, but the amount of fun that you'll have in this movie will kind of outweigh all of that. And that's as long as you can kind of let go of whatever prejudices you have before going into this movie. If you just go in and say, I want to have a good time, you'll have a good time. And that's what we did.
And that's why we're giving this one a 7.5. Just sheer entertainment and worth the price of admission.
So that was our review of Fate of the Furious. Have you seen it yet?
Did you like it?
Did you hate it?
Did you like this video?
Of course you did.
Crave more banter?
If so, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel down there somewhere.
And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, all at Breaking Banter.